strategically getting through this process. I'm going to just isolate my topic on asset protection and what could be done to help what we call shelter the assets. And we don't hide anything. We just shelter the assets, okay? And the way we do that is with the Nevada Asset Protection Trust. And Nick, when you get a chance, I'm going to need my bucket. I just realized. Now,
is it the bucket from the beach with all the little shovels?
Not quite. It's just the paint bucket. Okay? And I like to use the, for those of you who don't know what a trust is, I like to compare them to a bucket. That's how I was taught it. And this bucket is ideal because you can place your assets into this trust so that you do not own them, but you control them. And that's beneficial in a short sale or negotiation point of view because if you don't own them and they ask questions like, well, what do you own? You don't have to lie about your assets, okay? It's also beneficial in the event that you end up getting sued down the road for whatever reason. Once those assets have been in that trust for 2 years from the date of the transfer, then no legal action may be brought to reverse those assets out of the trust. So let me kind of show you how that works. Let's say somebody is underwater and they have $30,000 or $50,000. Bankruptcy is not going to be an option for them, and the reason for that is because they have too many assets, okay? And so what they're going to end up needing to do is protecting those assets. So I like to compare the asset protection trust to this bucket. So you take your assets, let's say whatever they may be, $30,000 or $100,000, and transfer them into the trust. And I just got to stop for a minute. Am I being recorded on that right there? Oh, okay. Does he work with you?
Yes.
Oh, okay, good. I just need to make sure. And so when we transfer these assets into the trust, you don't own them. So let's say that you had a short sale application that you were going through and somebody wanted to know, hey, what are the assets? You don't have to tell them about them if they're in this trust. Now, there are other types of trusts, like a revocable living trust, and everybody should have one of those, right? Those are like bread and butter. A revocable living trust is used to avoid probate, right? Have you heard that before? Even LegalZoom.com helps us understand that, okay? A revocable living trust is great for avoiding probate, but this trust is different. This is a very special trust formed under a special law in the state of Nevada, okay? So place the assets in the trust, and then what? Go forward and try to do the short sale. Now, I know it's come out, okay, but why would I, as the asset protection attorney, love short sales? There's only one reason really I like them. And it's because it's the best opportunity to get the bank to waive their right to sue you. Because you understand they have a right to sue you if you walk away from that contract, that note. And the short sale is the best opportunity to get the bank to go away. Okay, they're like killer bees, and it's like the smoke, it calms them down, okay, and they go away. Now, do short sales always work in every case? No, they don't. And so that could be a concern for you if you have assets. But by placing them into the asset protection trust, if down the road you're faced with some sort of a lawsuit, if the assets have been here 2 years, then they cannot take a legal action to reverse these assets. Now that's the conclusion, okay? That's the summary of how this strategy works. Are there any questions so far on the Nevada Asset Protection Trust and why we use them and why I'm enthusiastic about them and why I love them so much? And it's almost 8 o'clock at night.
So
okay.
One of the questions, Gary, that I get a lot from the clients is, okay, so I'm in the process of the short sale and this is going to get resolved, but I'm really worried about the home that I am on and my mother lives in it, and I put it in this trust. If the bank wants to sue me, I got this 2-year period of time, what do I do?
Okay, well the good news is that, now is this going to show up on the video, do you think, okay? Okay, good. Can I move it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Now, with this, it's very important that you understand the timeline, okay? So we're talking about a house perhaps that your mother-in-law lives in, but that house that you own, that you don't want to talk about to the bank, you don't want to disclose it, has equity.
That's right.
Okay, I'm only interested in if it has equity. If it doesn't have equity, then it should be on the chopping block to do a short sale, right? But if it's something that you care about, it's an asset that you care about, transfer it into the trust here, okay? Transfer it into the trust. Then you can immediately do the short sale, okay, if you want. Probably you would want to wait maybe 2 months, okay, before you actually make statements to the bank. There's a technical reason for that Don can talk to you about later. But here's the short sale, okay? And if anything, okay, the trust helps you to get through that process because the bank's going to want to know what you own, right? But you don't have to lie about the assets in this trust, okay? You don't own them. Once you're through this short sale, if it works, great. But later on down the road in your life, let's say the 2-year window is right here. This is the second benefit. So there's 2 benefits to the trust. 1, it helps you negotiate in a short sale or with any creditor. Number 2, if it has a lawsuit benefit. This benefit is immediate, okay? If the negotiation benefit is immediate, the lawsuit benefit takes 2 years to season before it becomes effective. So let's say during that period of time, the house is in the bucket, and now has it been under 2 years or over 2 years?
Why don't you do both?
Okay, well if it's been over 2 years, it's not interesting because no legal action may be brought against the assets in this trust to take it out and reverse it.
That's right.
Okay, if it's been under 2 years, hey, you have to negotiate. Okay, you have to negotiate. Now sometimes when I talk about lawsuit protection, and I talk about this trust, and I talk about how great it is, and it only takes 2 years for it to become perfected or to become seasoned, folks sometimes start to get a little bit like, they say things like, well, I don't have 2 years. But you don't realize what you're comparing it to. Okay, there's nothing else that goes as fast as the Nevada Asset Protection Trust. In fact, the next best thing takes at least 4 years before it becomes seasoned. Okay, at least 4 years. Let's say instead of putting assets into this trust to protect from a potential lawsuit, we transfer assets to your sister, or you give some to an LLC, or where else might you, what do your neighbors talk about? Where do they tell you to put it? Maybe in a corporation, maybe they tell you to give it to grandma, right? Maybe they tell you to give it to a charity. I mean, have you heard these kind of crazy things? Yeah. You know, all of those strategies take at least 4 years to season and to actually work. If you get sued and you lose, at least 4 years. And what's worse, if you gave it to your sister or your brother, you don't control that stuff. Okay? Now you've overly exposed your assets because they have their own lawsuits, bankruptcies, divorces, IRS problems. Okay? And so you've overexposed the assets by giving it to a human. And this trust, you simply transfer it in, you can control it, but you don't own it. I've said that like 10 times. But it's got to sink in. And I know we won't fully understand the beauty of this trust until I start getting the questions. Okay? I know it won't quite crystallize in your mind. So I'll just stand here and repeat myself over and over again. You transfer it in here. Now, people like realtors, particularly like Don, who understand this strategy, when they find a client, let's say with $50,000, $100,000 in their checking accounts, savings accounts, or something like that, they love to have this trust built because it makes their job easier. It makes their job a lot easier when there's this trust involved, because now they can go to the bank and not have to lie about the, you know, what is the downside of a short sale? There's 2 little downsides. Let's talk about them. Let's talk about them real quick, because we're talking about how great they are and I love them. But there's 2 little problems with the short sale. One is that if it's not successfully negotiated, that short sale, you'll still have to pay the deficiency, right? You'll still have to pay the deficiency. But a good negotiator is going to make that problem go away. In fact, how long can the bank sue you if you do not successfully do the short sale? They have 6 years to sue you. But that problem goes away because the realtor is going to negotiate that out. Don's going to do that. Okay, so that's the one problem with the short sale, but you can get that to go away. What's the other problem with the short sale? The other problem with the short sale is that the bank wants to know what you got. You have to tell them about your assets, right? This is a big problem for a guy like me, because I don't want anybody knowing what you got. I don't even want anybody filming you, right? So the reality is, I can help make that problem go away, because if you put it into the trust, then you're not. You tell the bank what's left in your name, but you don't have to tell them about what's in here. Okay, and that's why it's so fabulous. You'll still be in control. For example, what if there's a bank account? Let's say you got $50,000 and you put 45 of it in this trust. What might you want to know? Who's the signer? Who's the signer on that checking account in there? Well, it can be you. It can be you. Okay, so you're still in control. The only reason I'm bringing up this lawsuit issue right here, the only reason I'm bringing that up is because in most cases the short sale is going to work, but sometimes it doesn't. Okay, and then you want to have the confidence that if the result later on ends up being a lawsuit, that your assets will be protected. I have yet to have a client who, if they had transferred their assets into the trust prior to the short sale, I haven't had a client yet, if the short sale doesn't work and then there's a foreclosure, I haven't had anyone who hasn't gotten through the 2-year period. Now, there's no guarantees. I'm not guaranteeing anything. But because this process can take some time, as you take the steps, if nothing's working out, the process, it's easy to get through the 2 years is my point. It's easy, okay? A lot easier than trying to get through 4 years, all right? So that's a little bit about the trust and asset protection. Now, if you're in the room and you're thinking, I'm broke, he's talking about $30,000, he's talking about $50,000. Well, I like to say everybody needs me, but you don't all need me right now, okay? And I just taught you how to protect your wealth going forward, because you could be sued by anyone at any time for any reason, right? And as you accumulate those assets, where would you accumulate them? In this trust. Why haven't you heard about it? The reason you haven't heard about it is because normally we're pitching this to what I call filthy rich Americans, okay? That's normally who I was accustomed to pitching this to. Okay, what, they have, $10 million, they put 8 of it in here. Well, what happened was, since the crash of 2008, many more people were coming to me, middle America, saying, hey, I only got $100,000. Wouldn't that trust help me? And I'm like, yeah, it's $6,500. My fee, $6,500. That's what I was telling them, because that's what, you can charge multimillionaires. Since then, of course, we've adjusted the price to be accommodating to middle America so we can help mom and pop, protect their wealth. That's why you probably have not heard about this trust. We have people from all over the country calling us all day long to get this trust in Nevada done, because it's the only trust in the United States that only has a 2-year seasoning, and there's no exception creditors. Do you know what that is? That's like a crybaby lender, okay? That's like a lender. That's like child support. Let's get serious. Child support is an exception creditor, okay? There are no exception creditors in Nevada. I'm just demonstrating to you the power that there are no exception creditors that are able to get through this. Okay, other states have exception creditors, Nevada does not. All right, so that's why they're so popular. Other than that, Don, you've heard me talk about this a lot. Am I missing something?
No, you're good. You're
okay. If you want more information about it, of course, Don knows how to teach you about that. We have the yellow sheet. Nick also afterwards can talk to you about our consultation and how it's free if you do certain things and come through the network and all that. Okay.
Thank you very much, Gary.
All right. Thank you.
Oh, we got a question, Gary. In the
Okay,
back.
go ahead. I'll clean up.
What's the difference? What's the difference between having your $50,000 in your bank account and in this trust in terms of what you can do with the money in that bank account? If it's
Nothing.
in my bank account, I can just write a check. If it's in the trust,
It's
out of
almost the
control.
same, okay? In order to get that total protection, you're gonna have to, have some accommodations that you're gonna have to learn to live with. They're not hard. For example, who signs the checks right now?
Me.
And afterwards, in the trust, you will too.
Right, but so I don't understand that.
You said
What's
trustee
the
matters.
inconvenience of it?
Well, I like to minimize it to the degree that you almost don't feel it, okay? But there are some steps that there are some formalities that you need to follow. The trust is self-policing. There's no trust cops out there. And so you do need to follow some rules, but we try to make them as easy as possible for you. There was a law passed back in the fall of 2011, and it made it much more easier for you as let's say a normal person to form this and be the trustee. The reason these are so popular right now is because you're also the beneficiary. Okay, you don't have to make this the benefit. You don't have to make your kids the beneficiary. You are, and so you have a right to use and enjoy the assets inside. Mark?
Can you form this trust if you're not a resident of
Yes.
Nevada?
Now-
As a Nevada trust? though?
Yes, that's why we get those calls all over the country. Now, there's 2 types of trustees that you must have in here. Do you have a revocable living trust? Just say yes.
Yes, I do actually.
Okay. Because we all should have
I
one.
was thinking my brother's a physician, but he works out of state.
Okay. Now, with the revocable living trust, who's the trustee? You are.
Right.
Okay. With this, there's 2 types of trustees. We have to introduce a new type of trustee. There's the managing trustee, which can be you. That's the one you want to be, Steve.
Okay.
And there's something called the distribution trustee. Don't worry, it's just on paper, okay? Now, do you know what a resident agent is? Have you ever formed like a corporation or an LLC or something like that? If you want an LLC in Delaware, you have to have a resident agent in Delaware. Does that person in Delaware have any control over that corporation?
No.
No. And so your brother, the physician in Illinois, can have the trust here in Nevada, but he will need a resident agent trustee.
Okay.
Okay. And then he'll be able to take advantage of
To
these
take
trust
services
rules.
with the properties.
Yeah, exactly, that kind of stuff.
And
Okay?
if you don't have one, in the consultation, we could talk about that to have solutions, so.
Of course, are you a Nevada resident?
Yes,
Then you could do that for him.
right.
And then there's no annual fees,
Right.
because you could just do it for him, and that makes it much easier. Okay?
What kind of annual fees are there?
No, actually. Well, if let's say you're from Illinois, and you need a resident agent,
Yeah, oh, that's for the,
yeah, it's $250 a year. That's nothing, okay? Or you could hire a trust company, they're about $2,000 a year. You know, and some people do that. Often I'll talk them out of it because I don't really think they bring much to the table. Okay, so
All right, thank you very much.
you got it.